Hello, everybody. Today, I'd like to take a look at a new self-care concept. This in the way of trying to solve the riddle of health. And as we know in self-care, it's all about the story. So we're going to take a look at kind of the childhood problem and how it plays out in adult life, but from a self-care perspective. Now, often we do take a look at the impact of childhood on adult life when it comes to psychology and things of that nature. We're going to do it a little bit differently, and we're going to explore this as the concept of the prophetic cycle, right? So, in childhood, we will generally have a certain pressure put on us. Now, this pressure is in the sense of a situation or circumstance where we see our parents' shortcomings, right? And in the shortcoming is the great letting down of that child. Now, it's not that the parent tries to do this, it's just something that happens, I believe, to all children. And in this way, the superhero perspective that children have on adults, and rightfully so, because the adult is making all the decisions and can make all the positive things happen and can get rid of all the negative things, or should in the child's mind. Uh, this creates that superhero complex, if you want to call it something. And you'll see this in children generally bragging about their parents. Oh, my dad's the toughest. My dad's tougher than your dad. My dad can run 100 miles an hour. Or, my mom makes the best food. Your mom can't make good food like my mom. And we have this kind of uh, idealism that children give to their caretakers. Now, in this great letting down, we feel that we have been wronged in a very deep way. The whole thing that we believe the whole time is not true, and this creates a kind of mental strain on the child's mind. And then out of this comes the kind of promise, the moral promise we make to ourselves. So essentially, we might say that um, my parent let me down in the way of not being as supportive as I thought they should be, right? And we start to rationalize, like, why would my caretaker not be that way for me? And we say, well, we're never going to be like that. And because we're never going to be like that, here's all the things that we're going to put in place to never be like them. And this seems to put in motion life's way of teaching us to overcome this lesson, which essentially means that as the child grows up, in kind of not having the actual reality to why the parent let them down, uh, they repress all the emotions and feelings around that letting down scenario. Meaning that if um, I felt so positive and my parent didn't do that thing, so now I'm going to repress positive feelings. And again, the child's world really revolving around feeling and emotion style things. If I repress those things, then ultimately, as I grow up into adulthood, because these feelings aren't known to me, the subconscious will slowly start to show us what life is like without these things. And that's why if you say to somebody that they're an angry person and they don't view themselves that way, but they truly are very, let's say, aggressive in their energy, they won't notice it and they'll deny it. Right? And that's why they say the first step of curing it is to acknowledge it. This, in a sense, is the thing that they've repressed can now be seen, and when it's seen, then we can start taking a look at life and seeing how that played out. And this essentially leads to the concept of the perfect prison. So you've lived your whole life wanting that parent to make it up to you, if you want to call it something, and because they never have, you don't gain this feeling. So you're seeking for this feeling by whatever actions you do. But in seeking for it, you can't find it because you are the one blocking out that reality from being true. Right? I can't see that I'm angry until I get stuck in a situation that's so tangled that I have to realize that that's me. I am the one that's being angry, and everybody else is not just too soft or not compassionate effort that don't know me. It's the fact that I was the cause of this in the environments. And we see that in the sense of every time we change people that are close to us, the result or their reaction to us becomes very similar to the previous people. And this kind of is how life shows us, or the subconscious shows us that there is something missing. Got to look a little deeper into it. You'll find it eventually, but this has to come with self reflection. Now, uh, this is bad and not too bad. It's a pretty forward thinking cycle. However, because it's hidden and suppressed, uh, and the only way for it to be clear, essentially, because if we get real good at it, we're very good at hiding it, and the only person that will actually be able to bring this thing out of us will be the person that we're closest to. This is generally going to be your wife, husband, so on and so forth, your close person, and we will start to um, create this original environment from childhood in adult life in the way that we are now the person that is letting down our partner or close person uh, by doing all the exact same things that we felt our parents had done to us very specifically. So, in that way, we come to the conclusion that we must forgive. They always say that forgiving is the best cure, and you forgive other people so that not just for them, but for yourself mainly. And I think this is the wisdom behind that statement. At this point, you've had the experience, and now if you're able to say, hey, you know what? Maybe at that time in life, when I was younger, my mom or dad or whoever was going through a very hard adult time. They're dealing with lots of stressors. They might have had a bad day. They might have to pay bills, and all those things are on their mind. So, would anybody in that exact same situation not have a similar reaction? The truth of the matter is, they probably had a very human reaction to a stressful situation. Whether they could cope with it or not depends on the strength of their character and who has helped them before. So when we find ourselves in such a familiar place, we have to then start giving the appropriate reaction, which is compassion. Did they purposely mean to do that to me? Could they have done better? Were there times that they did do better? If they did do better, then we have to say that it was in them. And at the point that we really needed them or felt that we were let down, they weren't able to bring that out at that time. And they might not even have known that would be such a challenging thing for our personality as a small person or as a child. And this way, we have to start to come to peace with, younger life. And if we're capable of doing this, if we're capable of having a reason to surpass that old way of thinking, in the sense of, I'm tired of not feeling happy, fulfilled, important, appreciated, loved, and because I'm so tired of this, I really want to get to the bottom of it. And now that I really pay attention to it, I realize I am the one creating the environment around me that people react this way. And now, to be fair, this doesn't always happen this way. And there are exceptions to the rule always, in all rules. But for the majority of people, this is going to be the big struggle. And the more we get familiar with how to take on that challenge, is the easier it goes, right? I only think sports are hard because I didn't play sports as a child. If I get good at it as an adult, that whole fear and all the emotions that I attach to playing soccer, feeling of lack of worth, feeling of incompetence, feeling of fear, feeling of anger for nobody teaching me, all these things disappear when I embody it myself. This must mean that there's some huge relief of burden to the mind, the body, the spirit, the soul, when we take on the task appropriately. And instead of looking for external fulfillment, we have the internal fulfillment that leads to the action of whatever it is we need to do. Now, I wanted to bring the concept of the prophetic cycle so that we will have an easier time with this. We kind of take life very harshly, not knowing that life is hard for everybody. And we generally establish several rules to protect ourselves throughout life. And these rules, again, uh, end up taking away life from us. So we're stuck in the position where we're going to either take away all the joy of life for ourselves, and we're the one doing it to us, or we allow others to do it to us in the sense that being vulnerable to the point where it's possible for somebody to do it to you. And in actually attempting or being vulnerable enough to do this thing with the right support, we gain the strength that we lost. We gain that thing that we felt was done to us. We understand it more, and through the actual experience of what that's like, we become stronger in character than probably our parents and their parents before them and their parents before them, because we know that it's been passed down, and we have decided to be the solution and stop the family health challenge there, so that we don't pass it on to our children or the people we care about. And in this way, there is a kind of full cycle. And once we get to the center of it, we can now chart the path of our life in any direction we want. And we won't just be kind of tossed around by the experience of having to come to that conclusion. And I think this is why often um, different philosophies and stuff like that lead to the point that don't really have free will. Something tells us what to do and we do it, and that kind of thing. And it's more than just an external thing, right? It is an internal thing, and this is a conclusion that needs to be, come to, so that we can start making our own decisions and not just live life based off of fear or by rules or regulations or certain particular defense mechanisms that we use to not take on this original thing. So that is just a quick insight into that. Hopefully this allows you to kind of see yourself a little bit better in life and be more compassionate to uh, others and yourself originally. And the easy way to kind of apply this, if you're going to do it proactively, I guess, is that you take a look at your childhood and you say, where were the points where I felt let down or betrayed or abandoned or left alone in certain situations? And you say, well, what feelings does one have when they're that way? And then you pick out those feelings, and then you say, I was sad, I was hopeful, I was these things. And then you say, well, imagine I was living life without these three emotions. How would my life look like? How would it feel? And more or less, you'll realize that it feels a lot like it's already feeling. And then you might say, well, what does my partner say about me when they decide to complain or when they try to point out areas of improvement to me? And I might say, well, they always say that I'm low energy. I don't ever enjoy the things that I say that I enjoy. And if you look at that very closely, you'll see that, hey, this also adds up to the fact that I've been blocking out these styles of emotions. And then you slowly start to add them in, and you say, well, in this new situation where you want to go back to the old thing, you say, well, what if I inputted that emotion of joy? I should be happy. All these things are happening. People are smiling at me, all these things are happening. So let me try to be a little bit more like my external environment with all this positive stuff. And then you'll slowly get the hang of it and build on it. And you have to be very patient with yourself, because this is a new skill. In fact, this style of life has never been lived by you before. You could be 50, 70, 80, it doesn't really matter. You have not lived life from the standpoint of embracing the things that you've kind of thrown away. So in this way, it's all new. Life is new again, and you can explore it in a whole different way. And you will have to build these small skills, learn to walk before you can run, essentially. So hopefully that kind of pulls it full circle. It gives you something to kind of work on and apply to your life, and you start to understand the full concept.